Hi everybody, and welcome to Love Speaks Love. I'm just going to put that on gallery view. So, oh yes, it's getting warm. So I thought I might end up being a little bit warm. So I'm your host Denise with very frizzy hair today. It's a very, very humid and wet day today. I've just been out for a little walk in the rain. So there you go, we are raw and real. And my beautiful guest today is Eve Alta. Welcome, sweetheart. It's so lovely to have you here.
It's wonderful to be here, Denise.
It was a little bit unexpected for both of us, really.
It was a surprise.
Right. I am going to... I wish I could really talk fluently while I'm doing tech stuff, but...
Doing technology. It takes all your concentration these days, I'm finding.
It does. It does. So I'm going to share it to Love Speaks Love first of all. Nope. And having to remember, you know, who I can share it to, who I can't as well.
You share it to groups?
Yeah.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, just oh, that's wonderful. It's all in order. That's fabulous. And share it to the Love Speaks Love page, which I only realised I could do while it's live the other day. I accidentally stumbled on that.
All these new features too coming out all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, I tried the new Facebook, but it was very buggy. Okay, so that is all done. So I will just start by bringing us into our heart space. And thank you everybody for joining us on the live or on the replay or on YouTube. And I invite us all to bring our awareness to our heart space in the center of our chest. Breathing in love directly to our hearts and breathing that love out into your field. And knowing that as you breathe love in, it's going to go to every cell of your body. And we are connecting to universal love, which is infinite. There is an infinite, everlasting supply. So connecting my heart now to yours, even to everybody watching, live and on the replay. Connecting our hearts to the heart of Gaia. And also connecting in with the New Earth templates, the crystalline grid of energy, which all emanate out from the beautiful diamond crystalline heart of Gaia. And feeling her love, her gratitude, and her recognition of all of us. And connecting our hearts to the heart of the sun, the heart of the moon, and to the heart of Source Creator. So we are a bridge between heaven and earth. And let's just breathe out anything of the day so far or the day ahead. Anything that stops us from being in this now moment. As we once again breathe in love and breathe out love. And opening our eyes if they're closed whenever you're ready.
I love that part.
I know, I could just stay there all day.
Yeah.
I'm always like, oh, can I not just do the show like this with my eyes closed? Sometimes I feel I can see better with my eyes closed than I can when they're open.
Me too.
When I do sessions, it's like I see through my hands as well, but I can definitely see more with my eyes closed than open.
What I'm finding interesting is that I'm starting to be able to see with three eyes at the same time when I'm in like I'll be coming out of lucid dream in the morning, and it's almost like I'll be seeing essences of my lucid dream like overlaid on my reality, which I thought it happened to me last week. I thought, oh my gosh, something new. So
That's really interesting. I've kind of heard that. It's like the sounds. Because when I drift off into that dream time, it's like I hear the sounds before I'm there as well. And sometimes it's like the sounds are still going when I'm here. Like you've got one foot in both.
yes, very interesting.
So Eve, we first started connecting. I don't even know. I mean, I'd seen your name around, but particularly when we were doing Benedict Beaumont's breathwork course, which I really must get back to. I was very good with it in the beginning, and I've just really let that slide. So you might be my nudge to get back into that and finish that foundation course, because it was really powerful. And of course, you've been on many of the calls that Zahara and I do, and many others. And I see your name, a lot on Soulology. So I feel like I know you a lot better than I do, but I'm sure I know you not just, we know each other soul wise as well.
Yes.
I do really feel that deep connect with you. So I'm really looking forward to getting to know you as the human in this life more in this call. And as we said before the call, this is the start of many conversations, either on or off air. But I definitely feel the sisterhood with you.
I feel it strongly as well. Thank you.
Yeah. Yes. So thank you so much for joining me today. And it just kind of evolved. This week has gone really quickly, and suddenly it was Wednesday. I'd planned to do maybe a few shows in my head this week, and I realised yesterday that I hadn't booked anyone. I was like, oh, it's a little bit late in the day. Maybe I just won't do one this week, because I want to do a few next week, because I'm staying at my sister's next week, so I'll have a fair bit of time. And then we were chatting after our big call yesterday with Zahara, and it just really, I was getting a strong nudge to ask you to be on today, and I think your guides were nudging you to say yes. And I know we've spoken about the challenge of doing this kind of thing, and the challenge of doing Facebook Lives, especially. In some ways I find those worse, or more of a challenge, because we can pretend this is just me and you, and we can have a chat, and it's easier than talking when you're talking to yourself as well. And to actually press that blue button on the phone on Facebook Live used to take me quite a few goes, and sometimes I'd start and then get my words all jumbled up and be like, nah, and stop it and start again and do a few takes. So I think you've probably been there as well.
I actually have not had the courage to push that live button. I've been doing little videos. I know, so it's a bit of a cheat, because I haven't had that courage to hit the live button yet. But this is my official out here today, coming out live. So I'm really pleased. It's a very soft landing with you. I really appreciate your patience and your gentle ways, because I feel very comfortable with that. So thank you.
Thank you. Yes, actually I started with videos, and then I did lives to Keepers of the Codes group when it was still fairly small. This would be 2018, I think. Or was it? Yeah, I think it was 2018, maybe the end of 17, no, 18, I think. And that felt a safe space to do light language lives there. I didn't really speak very much. For me, it's a lot easier to speak light language than it is English. And knowing that that particular environment, that group was very welcoming to that as well. But the same, I started doing meditations out in nature, recorded them, and then put them onto YouTube before I started doing Facebook Live. And it's a process.
It is. It is. Baby steps. I try to do everything, though, with baby steps, because when I was younger, I would just leap into everything just spontaneously. I'm an Aries, so, and I got into a lot of trouble growing up. So, but I try everything, you know. I was one of those adventurous kids. But yeah, lots of trouble.
I can't remember if I told you. You told me all your birthdays in your house, because you and Vivian are very close. Is it the 9th and the?
Yeah, hers is the 8th and mine is the 11th.
I'm the 12th.
Oh, you are another Aries sister. Oh my goodness, I didn't know that. Well, that's interesting.
Yeah, I forgot to tell you that, and I'm fire horse in Chinese astrology as well.
A horse, fire horse. I'm this year, which is the year of the rat. So this is my year, and yeah, it just seems like a lot of things have lined up this year for me. So it feels right.
Now, when Vivian was chatting to Todd, she spoke of her lineage, which obviously is your lineage because you're Vivian's mum. And I would love to hear more about your. We touched on it a little bit when we were just chatting earlier about your lineage, because it's an amazing lineage. So, you know, please feel free to share whatever you feel of this. It's fascinating.
Okay. Yeah, I think I'll start on my mom's side because it's very unique. I mean, both sides are very unique in a way, but my mom is Japanese, and she was born in Tokyo, but she comes from a matriarchal line, which is not really a common thing in Japan, but it is something that exists where the husband that marries in will take on the wife's surname.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it's a long history because, you know, they honor it because it is that pronounced in a line. I believe that my family goes all the way back to the original Ainu tribe, which is the native indigenous tribe of Japan on the northern islands of Japan, so we call it Bushi, which is samurai lineage. The original samurai actually came through the native indigenous people really invented sort of the form of being one with nature, of course. So that's where the samurai tradition actually came from. So that is a warrior, you know, clan line. So that runs very deep in me, this strong warrior female too, which is, I didn't really realize this growing up. This is all shown to me, you know, over the years. But yeah, so I always felt like I had a strong masculine, you know, essence in a way. I would call myself like an Amazon because I would play with the boys, you know, and be out there in the courtyard playing football, you know, with them and stuff like that. So, but that takes me to my dad is a military career officer in the military. He was a Green Beret. So that's a very elite super soldier who they originated basically in the 50s and 60s. So that was all just being developed through the Army. when I was being, conceived. Basically, I was a few years old when my dad started the training. He went to officers training school and all that. And so I traveled my whole life, basically. So I was fortunate enough to live, in some very unusual places, including Japan for a few years, Hawaii for a couple years in my teen years, and then Germany when I was really little, all over the United States. But basically pretty much every year until I was like 13 or 14 or so, we were moved around the planet. So, and then after that, that never left me. I never was able to settle down. I just kept moving, like a classic grid worker that I am. I'm all over the place all the time. I have not been able to stay in one location for more than 3 years. So, yeah. So then my dad's lineage goes all the way back to England. So I should mention that, to even a castle in England. The family line goes the Fenner Broughton line. There's a book, actually, my name's in it. And so, yeah, I'm technically a lady, I guess. I'm not sure if that applies or not, but,
Wow.
it's there.
And that was, did you say that was Stratford upon Avon?
My sister lives there presently.
Right.
She moved to England about 20 years ago. She's married to an English gentleman, Anthony, and they live in the beautiful English countryside there around Stratford. Yeah.
Yeah, it's probably close in American terms. It's quite close to Birmingham, and I'm the north of England, so Birmingham's kind of quite central. I think it was 260 miles or something from here. So in Australian terms as well, that's really close. It would probably only take 3 hours to drive.
Yeah.
In English terms, we probably think that's quite far.
Yeah.
Funny how your perceptions change. Like when I moved to Australia, because it's such a big place, your perceptions, driving an hour to go to someone's house for dinner, you're quite unlikely to do here. But in Australia, it's like, well, that's just down the road,
And generally the roads are going to be different too. European and English roads are a lot smaller, aren't they?
Yeah. And a lot more cars on them as well, most likely.
Driving on the I would call it the wrong side of the road, but I'm sure you'd say the same thing about coming here. It's like, oh my God, you're driving on the wrong side of the road. Oh my gosh.
So that's really interesting that the warrior energy is so strong in there as well. And yet I find you such a peaceful person as well.
I've really had to work on that. I've really had to.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. So as a child, you must have been quite impetuous and carrying that Aries headstrong like energy.
Well, what's interesting is I think when I was very young, I was that peaceful little girl. Everyone said I was a sweet little darling. But it all changed. I think I should probably tell you about this. When I was 5 years old, I got hit by a car. So I had a near-death experience at that time. I didn't also realize that because I have very little memory of what happened. I remember before and after pretty well. But I was shown during my dark night when I was clearing the energy for this trauma, that I was a walk-in. And so I don't know if your audience if you want me to explain that or not, but
I think a lot of people will understand, but I think it would be quite helpful to say what your perception
way I
is
see it, yeah.
of a walk-in. Yeah.
So I was listening to a Dolores Cannon thing about the 3 waves of star seeds. And she talks about how kids that were born in the first wave, the early wave, where the earth was not in a place, or the energy was not in a place to really hold a lot of the souls that came in, in their entirety or in their fullness. And so a lot of souls were split in order for them to come in different parts. I don't know, that sounds really interesting. To me, I was like, oh yeah, so that's why, like, for the parent who is bearing a child with a high frequency, so to speak, they would split the soul so that one half came in, or part of it came in at one point, and then maybe later on, another piece of yourself, or higher, another aspect of yourself would drop in. But it required that you almost had this death experience, for the soul to come in. And I guess, the way I knew it was really interesting how I was shown this. I saw another show that was a talk show like this, and he was talking about getting hit by a car when he was 6, this gentleman that I was watching. And he said, yeah, and I came out of it with no scratches, nothing wrong with me. And that's exactly what happened to me. And I was like, that's what he goes. And at the exact same time, they both said, classic walk-in experience, or something like that. And I was like, boom, because I'd been shown I was a walk-in, but I didn't totally understand it until I saw that interview. And I was like, yes, that's exactly what happened to me. So
that really resonates. That really, really resonates, because as the mother holding the energy, if it's too strong and too much of a differential, it would blow her fuses.
Exactly.
It would be, yeah, that really, really resonates. I really get that. So some people would class walk-ins as like a soul swap, but you're not saying that it's the same soul, but it's just partially come in and then more comes in.
Yes. So I think there are different kinds of walk-ins.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's one category, like what happened to me. But I've heard of other people saying where they just are a different person one day from the next, like something happens. And then some are temporary, I think, like they'll just come in for a short time with a person and then leave. I've heard that before too.
Yeah, that makes sense too. And I think even if a multidimensional aspect of you comes in and is then kind of running the show a little bit, there would presume, but it's the same soul, but it's a different, let's say that it's the same soul, but it's a different aspect of the soul that's coming in, as well as that, that you could see personality traits. There would be, inevitably, and it doesn't necessarily mean a soul swap as well, even if there's different memories and stuff. That's all quite intriguing.
I think there's probably more to it that I don't have the full picture of, but I got it in pieces. It seems like things that are hard to understand or accept, they'll give you little bits at a time, so that it's not so overwhelming to you. Because when I first heard that, during Dark Night, I was like, what is so crazy? I just freaked out.
Who am I? Yeah.
Because I just couldn't understand it. But now it just seems like, oh, no big deal. It's like, whatever. I've seen so many things now and understood so many things now that it doesn't feel like such a big deal at all. But yeah, I did change, I think, my personality somewhat. But I think what more changed my personality was the fact that I was in a military environment, as a young child, and with a soldier, who had PTSD from Vietnam, a couple of tours, and and a mother who was not an American and was trying to be an American during a time when, the Asian culture, or Japanese in particular, were still seen, as kind of the enemy, or, a terrorist, So she was, I'm sure she was having a hard time because I think, her vision of America was sort of like this promised land that she was coming to, from the movies that she had seen, with Audrey Hepburn, and how romantic and all that. And I think that's the sort of 19-year-old perception that she was having when she came. So yeah, I think it was hard for her, you know, a shocking sort of reality hitting her when I was little. And then plus
Oh,
being moved around all over the place all the time, you know, and then going to Germany too when I was like, I don't know, 3 or 4, living there for a year. And that's when I got hit by the car. It was in Germany, actually. So yeah, it was just a foreign lands all the time. And so she had to really count on my father a lot. And she didn't have like a family, you know, support or network. So um, I think she was like another child, you know, in a way. I was raised by, you know, someone who was handicapped in that regard, you know.
how old was she
She
when
didn't
she
have
came?
a mother growing up. Her mother died of tuberculosis when she
Yeah.
was like 7, I think, or somewhere in there. And then I was raised by a father who never had a father. So I had 2 parents. Yeah, my dad's dad abandoned his family when he was pretty young, maybe under 10. And so he was sent off to the farm. So they both had like these abandonment stories that were really deep. So there was this deep, you know, anger, I think that was boiled in there that I received a lot of. And so it was not an easy, you know, I mean, there were good aspects to it. Obviously, there's good to everything, but there was a lot of hardship as well um, through that youth, through my youth.
And how old was your mum when she went to America?
She was 19.
And so did she go there on her own, or did she go there with her father?
She had permission from her family, but pretty much everyone had said no, except for her great grandfather. And this is the guy that my daughter had spoken of on Todd's show. He was basically a shaman. I mean, he had his own physical therapy school that he had developed. And when you have a school in Japan, it's not like an easy process to just, you know, to have, it's got to be a very formal way of achieving this higher level of degree to officially be a school. So yeah, he had a physical therapy school, which he, you know, healed. It started in the house where you just would, all the old men in the neighborhood got together and they would do exercise every morning for a couple hours, you know, and he would guide them. And he had healed himself from an illness in his 30s. The doctors had said he would just be dead in a year or something like that. And was determined to that, you know, to figure that out. And he did, and lived till, I believe, 98 years old. So yeah, that's quite I feel like that's another part of my lineage that I'm very, you know, proud of and connected to still.
Interesting. So did you ever, I can't work the dates out. You never met him then, your great grandfather?
I did, actually. When I was living in Japan, I was, I think, 12 or 13 years old. So yeah, we actually got to spend time with the whole family there, and before he died. And yeah, I'm very grateful to have had that time, because I have some strong memories, you know, from that period. I got to travel Japan quite a bit, actually, too, because my parents threw me into this modeling gig where I was doing, you know, in a little magazine or something. And I had hair like down to all the way down my back. And so, you know, the Japanese really love long hair. But I was just able to go to like Kyoto and Nara, where they have all the amazing gardens and temples. And it's a very memorable experience as well, being there. But I lived on an army base, so army bases kind of are homogenous. It's like a different culture. It's like a big family in a way. You're very protected. So you don't get messed with. You've got a lot of freedom. There's always forests on all army bases, pretty much. So that was my that was my safety zone, running to the woods. So I was pretty wild in that respect. You know, we had a lot of freedom. We got to just go, and we would, and the kids would just, we'd gang up and go out and fish for crawfish, or, you know, or whatever, get in trouble, get muddy, climb trees. so there's a lot of, yeah, strange, I guess, dualities or extremes in my world growing up. So from war, you know, just being in school where you knew that, you know, a friend could disappear just like that, you know, if their dad got hurt or whatever, they just disappeared. So that was a weird, we, you know, no one ever talked about it. It was strange. You just knew that something had happened if your friend disappeared one day. And that was really hard, you know, losing people like that. And when you got called to the office, it was a big deal too. It was like, oh my God, you know, what happened? So there's a lot of fear, you know, about fear of loss all the time, and being moved around too, fear of loss. So that was very deep in me as well, that I've had to work a long time clearing. So.
And the abandonment
Yes.
stuff in your lineage, did you feel that in you as well?
Well, recently, I had a profound clearing of that finally with my daughter. Viv and I work a lot together, which is really awesome. And it's also very difficult too at times, I have to say, because we're like karmic, you know, partners in that respect. We mirror each other quite strongly and trigger each other. But this was an issue from the deep abandonment that we cleared, I think it was like 2 weeks ago, where we finally merged on a level. We were holding hands, and it was, I just feel like the mother energy really came in strong a couple of weeks ago and has been fairly persistent here the last, I guess, couple of weeks. And she came in for me as Divine Mother Mary, and then for my daughter as I don't know, another aspect of the Divine Feminine. I can't remember who she said because it was her experience. And but we were holding hands, and then after Mary pretty much embraced us and we were both crying, then came in the ocean animals, which was really beautiful. I got a healing from, well, see, first came in an octopus just to say hello, and then, you know, some other deep sea creatures, but then the dolphins came in, and it was really gorgeous. And they started healing with me, and we were both doing light language. And I started doing like dolphin language, which this is very new to me. So, but I could feel it through my whole body, how the energy of just, you know, being in unison with them just was like clearing this deep root kind of issue. I've had sciatica for the last like 4 years. When my Kundalini broke through, I guess it was 5 years ago, it was like I went into immediate dark night strongly, even though I had been going through, you know, Kundalini awakening maybe already for like 4 years or whatever. But so the sciatica came, and that I've been working on now for like, solidly for 4 years. And so for it to be like, I just felt the vibrations going right into it with the dolphins. It was really wonderful. And then the whales came in right after that. And so it was a big experience for us. So I think we're getting to the bottom of the barrel in regards to that abandonment issue. So it's a pretty big deal. We're getting along a lot better too, it seems like lately. So that's like a relief.
Okay, there's so many things that I want to ask you about from what you said, like leading off from those, where to go first. I know I want to ask you about the Heiros Gamos connection that you had. I'm quite curious about that. So you were holding hands, but obviously you could do it online as well. Do you consciously, okay, let me rewind a little bit. When I do sessions with people, when I do energy healing work, which started as Reiki, but obviously it evolves. I think for everyone that is attuned to Reiki, it evolves into like your own thing. But I can tell that we sync, let's call it a sync rather than a merging. So I can tell my brainwaves have merged with theirs. If they're about to fall asleep, I can feel that in my own brainwave. Mm-hmm. And probably if my brainwave is in that kind of theta state, that will be passed to them. Most likely they're receptive to it as well. And I can feel that our chakras merge to a point. But when I was doing a lot of sessions in Australia, I wasn't really aware of Heiros Gamos, so I may not have kind of thought of it in these terms. Mm-hmm. And obviously, where I have felt it is when I've been intimate with someone, and then you really feel your chakras joining. Mm-hmm. You know, you feel that oneness between you, like, mm-hmm. and that new energy that's kind of created. So I believe when you are intimate with someone, Heiros Gamos will happen, but Heiros Gamos can also happen when you're not being intimate with someone, where you join together as one. So how did it kind of just spontaneously happen, or did you plan for that to happen? And do you then consciously merge your chakras, or does it just kind of happen on its own?
For me, I feel like it just is more spontaneous. But we definitely mentally, I think, are already have our mindset on uniting.
Yeah.
When we hold hands, that we don't do that. It's not like something we just do every day. So because of our lack of trust of each other, you know, with this abandonment issue, it's taken a long time to get to that point. Yeah. Where we trust each other enough to actually, you know, sit down and hold, you know, lay down really and hold hands together. So that was a big step for us. We've only done it a few times actually, because of this gap that we had. But yeah, I feel like it's spontaneous because our hearts just call us to do it, you know, and we know. It's like you just know it's time to just unite and not be separate. And we often have exactly the same experiences when this is going on, or visually know exactly, you know, we'll say, well, this happened to me. It's just like, yeah, that's, you know, afterwards we'll talk about it. And it'll be so often almost identical, like essences or energies or colors or just even whatever, storylines, or just so many different, but I mean, quite often her experiences are different from mine because she is really connected with the Fae realm, which I am too, but in a very different way. It's sort of interesting how, you know, what's really coming clear to me, especially in the last month, is how unique we each all are, you know, in our journeys, but also how much the same we are, but it looks totally different. You know, it's like the path is identical. We're heading exactly the same place, yet, but the picture looks, you know, diversely different. So yeah, that's happened with me with a lot of my friends as well. They're on the same path as I am, but they're going through way different things than me. You know, but then we'll come to this crossroads, you know, like this moment in time where we're both like, and we see each other eye to eye and really hear each other and go, yep, yes, I know you, you know me, you know, it's just a beautiful thing. So yeah, I'm sorry, I got a little sidetracked. I do that. I'll just sort of meander, you know.
Bringing in what needs to come in. It feels like the meeting point is like the heart. It's like your hearts then merge, and then the rest of it kind of just clicks into place almost if the hearts are really fully aligned together. And I see it as kind of like this figure of 8.
Yes. That's a good point. Yes. Because I think the first time we ever did it, we did a ceremony together with our hands crossed and holding hands like a figure eight.
Oh, wow.
And that was a profound experience too. That was when we were on the road. You know, I lived in a van and a bus for 5 years. And she lived on the road with me one winter. So that was a very tight quarter situation, obviously. I had at that time a van and a trailer, like a covered utility trailer where I carried everything in. So that was her sleeping area. And I was sleeping in the van, and the kitchen and everything was in the van. And so how we managed, it's still a miracle to me. We had a lot of battles during that winter. But yeah, this is our contract, man. This is to clear the family ancestry. So yeah, we were on the road in the desert and of Portside, Arizona. We stayed there for most of the winter, but we also traveled to like Joshua Tree and places like that, Palm Springs and Palm Desert. And did we go to Sedona that winter? I've been to Sedona, but not that winter, I don't think. But just, yeah, all through New Mexico, you know, a lot of hot springs, Crestone, Colorado. I really, that's a very favorite spot for me. It's a very sacred area there too. There's a big pyramid mountain there, and it is a spiritual mecca, much like Sedona is, that a lot of people haven't heard of, but every religious sect you could imagine is represented there. There are stupas and temples of all kinds, Buddhist temples.
What was that again?
Crestone, Colorado. Yeah, so it's in the mountains of the Sangre de Cristo mountain range. And yeah, there is a crystal mountain there. That's what they call it, I think. It's shaped like a pyramid. So there's a big vortex energy there. And I did a lot of grid work there, actually. I do grid work wherever I go, but the land calls you, you know, and you're just taken there and just spontaneously, usually, you know, one day all of a sudden energies will come in and there you are helping, you know. I just recall one time where in Crestone, I was camped next to a cemetery, which seems to be a common thing for me, cemeteries. But yeah, this whole tribe, it felt like a whole tribe of Native Americans came to me, and they were very upset. And I did clearing for them. And of course, above my head, there's probably, I don't know, a dozen to 20 vultures flying overhead, you know, circling around in a huge circle. And I'm guiding these souls to, you know, to go to the vultures. And at the same time, I do this chanting, and I guess it was like a wailing. I was wailing, and it sounded very Native, actually. You know, it's almost like I'm crying, and I was crying and hearing them, their anger. You know, they were saying, "This is our land. It was a sacred place." And they've, you know, messed it up, kind of thing. And I understand that a lot of Native souls were trapped, you know, in that resentment and anger energy, and that they couldn't get to the higher planes until they were able to forgive that. Yeah. But at that same day, as soon as that sort of subsided, I had the smudge stick going, and I walked into I was called to the cemetery, and then here's this American soldier that comes to me, and he's all like wanting my help too. So I cleared that out as well. And yeah, he felt a great deal of shame, you know, about what some of the acts that he had done during the war, I guess. And this was my impression. And so people get trapped. I mean, you know, these disincarnated souls get trapped here just because they aren't able to let go of, you know, that dark shame energy. So it just
feels like a fragment to me. It's like feels like a fragment of a soul. It may not be like all the soul that's stuck here.
But that's very possible. Yeah. Yeah, I don't get every detail, you know. I just know that I cry a lot. You know, when these events, I just do a lot of crying. So that's one of my missions here. It's just to cry and wail and let it all out. And I know it's kind of sort of funny.
In that, you're clearing the energy that's stuck, like the distortion,
I'm just
and
helping
then
them.
are you bringing in, even just by being there with your codes and frequencies and your keys,
Yeah.
it's like we all have our set of keys,
Yeah.
and we stand in a certain place, and it's like it
Yeah.
unlocks there, but also brings in new frequencies as well, which might be galactic frequencies, for example, or, you know, source. I mean, everything is source frequencies, but it's like the human is the anchor because we are in the 3D world. So the energy needs to come through us because we are embodied in a 3D realm as well, and our feet are on the ground. So it's like we then anchor
Yes, yes.
the energies
A
in.
grounding rod or something like that.
Yeah.
Electric, you know. Yeah. Like that's exactly how I feel about it too. I mean, yeah, you explained it so well though. I often lack really nice technical words because I was dyslexic growing up. So language is not my first mode of expression generally. But it was a gift really because it taught me, you know, how to see and read symbolic language very well.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I just feel like I'm sort of this acupuncture needle, like a lot of people, you know, have called it, and yeah, because after clearings, it's always worth it. I mean, that's why you continue to do it. It sounds really hard, which it is, to be just sobbing and this deep wrenching kind of energy. But when you come out of it and the next day or two, you just get this beautiful blessing of gifts of light, you know, and new codes, like you said, that are divinely just precious, you know, and sacred, and you just feel a part of something so much bigger.
Yeah.
And
And
yeah,
in the wailing, you're releasing a lot of the energy that's stuck, but you're also releasing a lot of your own energy in that
yes,
as well.
yes, it moves your because everything is me really inside, and you're moving out that, you know, that energy that's stuck. You know, it's all symbolically you. It's like a tarot card out here. It's this big game that if you can read the cards, you know, then you're understanding where you're at, you know, in on the journey or in the game. So yeah, it's taken me a while to understand that, but more recently, I'm really seeing how the more detached you are from, you know, the whole drama of it, that the easier this is getting, and a lot more fun. So um
Was that an itch on your back then? Because I noticed that I started, you
yeah,
were itching, and I was like,
it's
oh,
a
I'm
bit
doing the same on the
there.
other side. um, okay, so that moves me to ask you about something that we both share a deep passion for. So you mentioned the vultures.
Yes.
So I often find when I'm doing energy work that birds will come in, especially birds. They'll fly in, but other creatures as well. Um, and when you're saying it's like reading tarot cards, obviously we're reading the symbology of the animals, the
Yes.
clouds, but especially the animals. So they will come in, and understanding what the animal represents can be a message
Mm-hmm.
for us as well. And I know, and this shows me how gentle your energy is as well, the interactions that you have with the deer, especially. So I wanted to kind of talk about that, and the symbology. Yeah, the symbology of animals. And is this, like, I've looked up a lot of symbology of animals. It's not always something that I will just know about the animals, but over the years, it's something that I've studied quite a lot, and especially in Australia, because there were so many weird and wonderful animals there that I had no clue what their symbology was. And I must at this point just honour Scott Alexander King, who is a beautiful soul that I've reconnected with this week. He wrote a book on Australian animals because, you know, none of the general books help really, other than birds like eagles, because everything is so unique to Australia. And it was his book, especially, you know, an animal would come to me, it would cross my path, and I'd be like, okay, I know there's a message, but I have no idea what it is. And his book really helped me. And I think he's also done some more he's done more cards and stuff since then. And I really just wanted to take a moment to honor him, because we had a little chat, just a couple of messages back and forth on Messenger this week. He's very present with me at the moment. So when you work with animals as well and their symbology, I know you have quite a strong telepathic connection with them as well, that you're connecting on that level, and it's a real heart connection. But I just wondered if there was anything, you know, that you feel to share about that and your connections with animals.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up, because that's been my strongest guidance system since I was very young, were animals. I've always had a very strong connection to the natural world, but I always felt like I was communicating with animals on a telepathic level, like they could understand me. And I think, honed that skill with my dog Braxton, who I got, I think it was in 2009 or so, right after, you know, the market had crashed and all that. I was unemployed, and I had adopted this dog, and I started, because I didn't have a job, I was laid off. I fostered like 16 puppies, I think, you know, over a period of a year and a half or so. And he was like the strong leader for them. You know, he was already 4 years old when I had adopted him, and he was like a Zen master, this dog. I commonly often just could see his face, and he had these huge ears, and he was part German Shepherd or Belgian. I think he was Malinois, and half Australian cattle dog, so a blue heeler. So he's literally a blue heeler, you know. So it just felt, you know, very symbolically correct for me. But he helped to teach me, you know, about kind leadership and how to be peaceable. He never fought. He would dodge dogs just coming straight at him with this gigantic leap and growl, and he'd do this little number, and they would just go flying past him. I mean, he was sort of Zen, you know. It was really, he taught me a lot, that dog. So he was by my side through all of my journeys on the road. He lived with me on the road and was like, always had my back, you know. So I commune with trees a lot. And so I always felt safe, you know, communing with my trees. I would just be with them, and he would be there. So I knew that nothing could just, you know, sneak up on me, because he was there. But he taught me a lot about, you know, how, you know, with these puppies and with him, just how to be more sensitive, you know, to their ways. You know, all animals communicate through their body, and so you just, you know, just notice any little head movements or ear movements or eye movements and things like that. You can get a lot from an animal, and of course that telepathic and heart connection, like you mentioned. So I started more being able to reveal myself and be present with animals, and that's really what I think gives them that sense that you're safe. Is that you need to open up and be vulnerable, and also not have an agenda, you know, when you approach them. And I made the mistake for quite a long time of wanting photographs of everything, you know, because I'm this photographer too. And you know, going always up with, you know, a camera on stuff, and you're all excited, it just doesn't work. But I remember this one time coming up on a Mexican wolf which I ran to on the road down at Quartzsite. I mean, I was in the desert. And we would take this walk every day. And finally, near the end of that winter, I think that wolf was, I'd seen it a couple times, but it was more leaving, you know, the scene as I was approaching. But one day he was just right there in front of me, just standing there like, okay, I see who you are, you know, you're okay. I see you every day. And I had to gather in 2 dogs that I happened to have. My camera was in my pack. I had to pull it out and I asked permission. I said, please, 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 just let me take this photo, please, please. And I pull out my photo and it has to turn on and do all that stuff. And it's still just standing there waiting for me. And I slowly pick it up and I go, thank you. And I click it once and click it twice. And then I put it away. And it just sort of looks at me and then happily trots away. And I'm just like, oh my God. And it was one of the most, that was like a big turning moment for me. And, you know, with photographing animals and just knowing that they do see me and they see me way more than I see them. And it's sort of a relationship of trust that you build with animals over time. But these days the animals are far more available than they ever were. But that miracle shot that I took of that wolf, what was crazy was I got home and I looked at it and not only was there a wolf in the frame, but there's a hummingbird that had flown through the frame as I was taking the picture. So talk about divinely, you know, orchestrated. That's the magic that you can't make this stuff up. Just like Todd always says, you know, it's like holy shift. You can't make that kind of thing up. You can't plan that. You have to be so present, right? I mean, it's like, and that's what nature teaches me and the animals teach me is more and more is just how to stay in that field of presence all the time. And I think more and more that's what's being called of us, you know, is to be in that presence more as much as we can. And I think that it's getting easier in a way. It's almost as if the past is being taken away from us, as well as any kind of future projections you can't. And no one knows what's happening tomorrow right now, you know. And I think that's why we're in this really beautiful, amazing, sacred time of transformation that's happening. Yeah, you can't know what's gonna come. So my memory's going.
I love, I love what you say about taking photos, and I'm the same. Sometimes I'll ruin a moment by trying to get a photo instead of it just being in here. But that's also because I want to share that special moment with people. Mm. And I want people to know that you can have these incredible moments with these creature beings, these very switched on, especially as a collective, because sometimes when we tune in, we may tune into an individual animal, but sometimes we're actually tuning into the collective, which is highly intelligent, wise, and knowing as well, and knowing a lot of amazing things about us as humans. And I have a feeling, you know, a bird flies to a tree, there's no fear of the tree is just part of it and the environment and nature. And I feel that we are becoming more like that. Because, you know, butterflies and birds, they're flying much closer to me, not flying away when I approach them as much, almost like they see me as part of their environment, not separate from it. That one of the shifts is that we are becoming nature and not separate from it. And for me in Australia, what I loved the most about Australia was the animals, because I was able to get really close to them. Which one is a baby?
I want to go to Australia. That sounds so beautiful. Yeah. And the animals, you're right, are incredible there. God, tell me more, please.
So the wallabies were one of my favourites. I see wallabies and deer. I feel they're very, very similar. Their faces are quite similar and their energy is quite similar. Yes. Yeah, except that, and you know, I was very tuned into the sound of a wallaby. So you hear this big thud, and then it might be still for a bit, but it's quite distinctive, and obviously both feet are jumping together. But wallabies are very, very gentle. They're very different from kangaroos. They you know, I don't think, maybe they do fight, but I don't know about wallabies fighting. And I would, one of my highlights was singing. I'd be singing when I lived in this particular place, coming back from the beach, going through the bush, and I'd be singing light language. And if I was lucky, then you'd get like a gathering. I don't know what the collective word for wallabies is. Let's say a herd, doesn't sound right, but you'd get like a few, like a family of wallabies together. And one of them just didn't move while I was moving closer to it, and I was singing to it, and it just stopped eating. The only bit of movement was one ear kind of checking where the rest of them were. And for a good few minutes, I was crouching because I wanted to not be as high. I wanted to lower myself a little bit. And I was crouching for so long that my legs were going to sleep. So I sat on the floor, and still it just stayed there, gazing into my eyes. And we had a little chat as well. I can't remember if it was that occasion. I think it was a different one. And I'd looked after a friend of mine. Lewis Walker is Aboriginal and mainly lives off the land. And if they spear a mama wallaby who has a baby inside, then it's their duty to look after that baby. Obviously, you don't know when you you don't know that until you find the baby. So he looked after this baby wallaby called Gagungan for a long time, for a few months. And I was able, she's there on the wall, I'd forgotten that. She's like, hello. She was called Gagungan, which means, translates as beautiful one.
Oh, nice.
And he would carry her in a pillowcase because that's the nearest thing to a pouch. And, you'd be walking along, and he'd let me take her to the backpackers where I worked. And there's something about looking in the eyes of a wallaby, you just melt. And especially a joey, like everyone's heart that saw her just was like, oh. Yeah. And, I'd just be walking down the street, and then suddenly this little head would pop out, and people would be like, oh my God. It was so beautiful. And when I connected with this wallaby later, she thanked me for doing that. And I was like, how do you know? She said, we see it in your aura. We know that you've done that. We see that in your energy field. Yeah, so animals feel happy to come up to you. And you've had these experiences with deer as well. Yeah, it happened twice with baby brown snakes, which I'm less keen on because they're the second most venomous snake in the world.
Oh my God.
And I had one, I was doing Reiki on myself and meditation at the back of the beach, in that I was kind of a little bit in sleep, but I was still fairly conscious, and it felt like a sock had been pulled up my leg. And I was like, I wonder what that is, and just stay there for a few minutes more. And I was slightly on a slope, and I had to lift up to see it. And I thought it was a big skink at first, like a lizard. And then I saw it had no legs. And I just, literal knee-jerk reaction, I just flicked it off my leg. Immediately thought I was supposed to stay still, but I defy anybody to stay still when they the whole venom as well. I mean, it's just a literal reaction. And I do that when my hair taps on my arm sometimes. I do
the tickle.
Yeah. And it actually happened. And Lewis, I told him about it, and he's like, whoa, we call that the kiss of death. I had 3 experiences.
I would have jumped too. I mean, as familiar as I am with snakes, I used to have a snake when I was a kid.
Oh, you have a corn snake?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's so strange that I ended up with a snake. But my name's Eve. I mean, it just seems like I attract snake energy anyway somehow through my life. But yeah, in the wild, when they show up, you still get a little, a start, no matter how used to, nature you are. It puts you on your toes for sure. So I can't imagine that would be, what an experience.
And then it happened again about 18 months later as well. And that first time was Christmas Eve, and I'd just got my letter from the government to say that my citizenship had been approved. So I went from jumping around the house like absolutely joyful to thinking my heart was actually going to jump out of my chest. Like I was so scared. And then it happened again about 18 months later, but this one was quite fast. And it came up my right leg, but my arm was, you know, my legs were to the side and it came up like here.
Wow.
And again, I just went,
woo! Oh my God, it makes me shiver just, just thinking of that.
But I really love snakes. I really, really love snakes. I just don't particularly want them to surprise me by being on my person. But I had a lot of interactions with snakes and I could get fairly close to them by choice without scaring them and without them. Yeah, I've got so many snake and spider stories, and I'll leave it there because I want to get back to you. I loved what you said about with the deer to lower your head. I didn't know that.
Yes, they like, it's like a greeting almost. I have particular group now that I'm getting to know all the I'm starting to see all the members at once even. Like yesterday, it was yesterday, I believe. I saw pretty much about, you know, I don't know, like a dozen deer all at once, which is unusual. And yeah, there's one, the rest were a little, you know, they're half startled, but there's one that I think is the one I commune with. And she immediately just starts to bow. And so I just go right into my bows. And then it sort of, all the other deers are like watching her, you know, to see what she does. And you know, some startled off, but the majority just stayed. And so I'm going, okay, so she's sort of signaling, you know, to the group that I'm fine and, you know, that this is the one or whatever that, you know, I've been talking with or whatever.
Because yeah, about.
Yeah, she's the mother. She's like the mother with the baby. She has the baby. So that's what I find interesting. It's the one that, in a way, you think would be more protective.
Yeah.
You know, but that's the one that talks to me. So, and that's the one that I think it's the baby that I took a picture of. You know, when she was born. I walked upon her and I didn't even see her, I think, for minutes. I mean, like a long, I don't know how long, but it was minutes and minutes and minutes went by. And I was going, oh, I wonder what's going to appear today. You know, come on out of hiding. I know you're here. I feel you. And then I looked down and she's like right there. And I was like, oh my gosh, you know, just like they're so well camouflaged. It's but she was just right there. It was like, oh, just, so yeah, I think it's the same baby deer and the same mama that I was seeing.
My dream now is to be lying in a field and have them so comfortable that they come and just lie around me like, oh, heaven.
I was really in awe of Heroku, you know, Blue Star Child's video. Did you see that one? Where she's on Shasta, Mount Shasta.
Yes.
And the deer just comes walking right up to her. What a beautiful soul she is. Yeah, I would love to connect with her one day. I mean, her drawings are incredible. And she being Japanese, I'm sure we have something to share together. I'm not very Japanese for a Japanese girl, though. That maybe that's part of the mystique there of you know, that I don't have a deep connection in a way with a lot of Japaneseness, but maybe it's just my perception. I don't know. But anyway, so just seeing her encounter was really inspiring to me.
Yeah. Yeah, so many. And Shelley Saul.
Yes, there are.
Her name is something Clara. I've almost got it. She had a beautiful interaction with deer as well.
Mm-hmm.
Something the Wallaby taught me was to raise your right hand like this and your left hand like this when you approach animals.
Oh.
And that feels really like just, I had it forward, just really here by your side. That it's, and it doesn't feel right to do it the other way around to me anyway. And I really like that. And it feels quite significant to have you.
Well, strangely, as I'm taking video, I have my right hand with the camera in it though, because I hadn't been taking video because I know it's, you know, that's possibly just will scare them away. But every time I ask, and I've slowly been introducing that, and now I like from the films that I've caught, they're not freaking out about that. But it's strange that, you know, like you said, I have my hand up here, but it's got a camera in it. And I'm taking, you know, shots this way rather than, you know, in front of my face or something. So, but yeah, the animals, it's like every day I know I'm going to run into something. If it's not in the cloud, if it's not in real life, it's in the clouds. Or, you know, dragon energy has been very, very prominent too in the clouds. The last 6 months or so have been very dramatic. Yeah, that's a whole nother story, my initiation into the dragons, and then as well, like Merlin coming this, I think when was it? It was that day before one of your talks with your friend who's the animal communicator as well. What was her name? Shirley, or am I way off?
Shelley Sullivan.
Yeah.
Just changed the name, just something Kimara, and I can't remember the first name.
Oh, she changed.
Yeah, Shelley.
A lot of people are doing that too, it seems.
Yeah.
But yeah, she's a wonderful person. But I was in your group with that, and that whole Merlin came in that day.
Yes. Yeah.
That he had just been with me the night before for the first time. That was my first experience with Merlin. And then I come into your episode with you, and then there's Merlin again, and it just felt like he was orchestrating the whole thing. I mean, that's what I saw in my vision.
Yeah, and I saw him as like literally like a conductor conducting with his staff. Yeah,
that's exactly how I saw it. It was like he was just sort of like, here we go, you know, and it just, I don't know, his presence, I was very surprised, you know, because I know Todd talks about Merlin a lot, but yeah, I'd never really had anything, you know, most of my energies are very earth-based and animal, nature, elemental, and I do have some galactic presence, like the Lyrans come in, and for me they show up like just white pillars, you know. That's how I instead of looking like cats, I don't know, or else I don't know, maybe I'm speaking to something that's not Lyran when that happens. I don't get these names that tell me, you know, it's like there's not, I don't get names. I mostly piece together names through what other people are experiencing, because I don't, it's like I just see light usually, or energy or color, or just that feeling, and just sort of knowing. I'll get pictures, but names are kind of elusive to me. So.
Yeah, I hear that. Now we've already gone quite over time. I was quite surprised when I looked at the clock. I wanted to ask you about the jewellery as well.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, do you have time to share?
Sure, yeah, I don't have anything planned here, so I'm very fortunate. I come from a family of jewelers. My mother owned a jewelry store in Colorado for 16 years, and so I worked there a lot and learned a lot of my jewelry trade there. Learned a lot about rocks and minerals there. But then when I went on the road, being in quartzite, it's like a mecca for stone buying, you know, for jewelers and for rock dealers. And this is before the Tucson Gem Show, which is like the biggest gem show in the world every year, is in Tucson, Arizona, in February. So in January, you know, that's the big month in quartzite. But there are like big fields of dealers that just show up with their minerals from all over the world, and a lot of Australian mineral shows up there. And I mean, just everything you can imagine, really. So it's I really gotten to know, you know, my mineral worlds a lot through that. My daughter just brought me this piece that I made for her that she wants me to show off, apparently. And it's a piece of Moldavite, a very large, nice piece.
Wow.
And I forge, so this is in silver. So I hand forge silver wire to wrap like a spiral. Um, and every piece is different, you know, depending upon the shape of the rock or whatever. But this is a nice, you can see the back, there's just nothing, it's just wire. And it's just held together through tension. So that's one example. I work in copper as well. So that's like an example of sort of very free form copper piece that I did. And then I also am a silversmith. So this is one of my favorites that I wear for myself. And it for me symbolizes a sunflower, but with turquoise. I've always been a lover of turquoise. It's like, oof. And I guess that's a very Hathor kind of an energy, is that turquoise color, from what I've understood. Yeah. And then this is the little eye that I made that out of azurite malachite. So I do a variety of different, you know. And this necklace too, I string unusual beads. So I like to think of myself as this, I don't know, I get the right minerals to the right person. You know, they're made for individuals. They're not made for like commercial consumption, you know. So it's sort of a process. I don't sell a lot of jewelry because I don't make a lot of jewelry. It's more of a, oh, it's time to make this sort of thing. And then it comes together and I don't know, I think I make them for people, for individuals, and then they'll show up in my world, or eventually it'll get passed to them in some form. And I give away a lot of rocks because I just had so many rocks at one point, and I just feel like it's a service to the community to get the right rocks out to the right people. So that's one of the things I do. So it's fun.
So you don't really advertise.
I don't much. I might have to though pretty soon. I have not been working stably for 5 years. I haven't had a job. I've mostly just done this. I've just sold a piece here, a piece there. You know, that kept me on the road. It kept gas in my tank, and that's about it though. You don't get wealthy doing this, but it keeps me going. So I may have to make some more pieces here soon, and maybe I'll do that. I'll post some on Facebook or something to see if I can get that going again.
Yeah. The energy from that's really beautiful.
Thank you. Yeah, it's really fun working with minerals, man. They have a lot to share. I have a lot of minerals, and I tell you, their energy can be so supportive. You know, it's just sort of miraculous. They'll call out to you, and that day, you know, it just is like they have something for you. And especially when you're feeling like challenged in any way, you know, just having one mineral or two in your hands, you know, when you're going through a clearing can be very supportive. You know, just like dragons come in to support you. They're there just holding you, you know, when you're going through the hardest stuff. They're the fierce energy, you know, that really gets you to get into that deep clearing work. Yeah, I appreciate the presence of a lot of these energies. I mean, all these energies, animals are here to support us. I mean, they really are our teachers and our guides. So I've learned the most from them, honestly. Braxton, being my best teacher, left this world in January, this plane, but he's still with me so much now. I mean, once I got past, you know, a large piece of the grief, he is now a part of me. He showed up during that ceremony with Viv that I talked about. He was there. I just saw his face. I mean, he was right with me. So it's a blessing to have that. Yeah, they're great.
I'm just having a little look at the, there's a lot of messages there.
Yeah.
I will have a closer look after. Thank you everyone for all your beautiful, beautiful messages. yeah, Jake says he's got a big Moldavite around his neck by his heart. It's very powerful for the heart.
It's a powerful mineral, boy.
Yeah. Yeah. Not always great to wear all the time.
No. Not
Can be
every
good
day.
to have a break from Moldavite.
Vivian seems to be able to carry that energy all the time, though. She has no problem with it. But
yeah, some people can.
Yeah, some people can't.
And some people can't.
Yeah, I'm not one.
This has been really beautiful. The time has just absolutely flown by.
I really don't get to talk about myself that often or my life. So just holding space for me, you know, thank you so much. It's been such an honor to be with you today because, you know, I don't like sharing a lot in a way I haven't because I felt like my experience is so vast and unusual. You know, people often just are put off, you know, by my regaling of my stories, you know. So I've learned to just hold back a lot, you know, since young. You know, you've traveled the world, people just can't relate to you. It's very hard to, it's not relatable. So you just learn to just shut that part away and just like, yeah, that's for me and nobody else. But you know, I appreciate being able to share it with you. Thank you so much.
I think now you're in community with people who want to hear that as well, you know, and I think more and more people will as well. They won't be put off by that because you've a lot of wisdom to share, and I feel really honoured that you've done this here as well, and I look forward to more. And as I said at the beginning, I'm sure we'll be talking a lot more off the air, but I think on the air as well.
I hope so.
You're feeling more comfortable in this position. Yeah. And I love when two people, you know, you bounce off each other as well. You'll say something, it'll ping something in me, and and the energy's coming through, the wisdom, the higher wisdom that you're tapping into, gets really strong as well when there's at least two of you. So I've really enjoyed this.
Thank you so much. Oh, can I just mention real quick too that I'll be on Todd's on Tuesday. Soulology One Studios, Soul Speaks 5D with Todd Medina at 3:00 Eastern Daylight Time. On Tuesday, I think the 8th, I think it is, Tuesday.
Yep, that feels right. Yep.
So there you go.
Yay.
Yay. Rescheduled. Yeah, I guess he had a big day too yesterday. Yesterday was a big day.
Yeah.
The 2222 portal was a very big day.
And that's your numerology, isn't it? I just added.
That's my life path number, 22. Yeah, I was born on an 11 and my life path is 22. So have some power numbers there.
Yep. Yep, definitely.
And my mission is to get to the 33, I think, you know, or something like that, right? Just to master some of this realm. So, and you've been a beautiful step in for me to the live, and I really appreciate that because you made it seamless and easy, and you're a very gracious host.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. And you didn't seem nervous at all, like. Not at all. I don't know if you were or you weren't, but you certainly did.
I felt like I was having a conversation with you. You know, I didn't feel like there was a lot of people watching us. You know, I mean, it came to mind a few times, but honestly, yeah, you make it easy. So,
thank you, and thank you to everyone watching as well. And it's been
thanks everyone who was out there. I haven't been keeping a track of that at all.
To feel all of your lovely supportive energy like wrapping around us like a blanket, and if you found this helpful, if you would like to share, that's awesome. It really does help. and thank you everybody for the support for these as well. I don't always feel entirely comfortable doing it, but that's my stuff. But I will put my PayPal in the
Yes.
It does help, like even if people just make small donations, it really, really does help. But I'm also aware that a lot of the people that we watch, we're all in the same boat. And,
Yes.
and I understand that everyone can't give to everybody. So, you know, I fully get that. And this is service work, but if it's, you know, if people find it helpful and you wish to contribute, then it's there if you wish to. So thank you so much, Eve. This has been really awesome. And thank you to everyone watching live and on the replay, and also on YouTube as well. I feel like there's something else I should say, but if there is, it's gone. So love and blessings. I'm going to stop I'll stop the live first. There we go. Love, love, love.